location of the ships that used to sail on Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is a massive port. I have lots of fun facts. Yep, like a roller coaster, everybody. I told you.
Yeah. Rocking back and forth.
Jumpy.
Oh.
Right. Make sure you're hanging on, folks.
Side to side.
All right, everybody.
Going
Right
side
over here
to
on
side.
our left-hand side is Navy Pier, and it got its name because it. Hold on, folks.
Whoa.
Navy Pier got its name because it was originally.
It's choppy out here, guys.
It was originally a training facility.
We are really like
Over 10,000
rocking side
people
to
used to live
side.
on this little pier. It started out as a municipal pier, and then in World War I and II was converted to the Navy housing. Why were they here? What were they training for? They were training on aircraft carriers. So,
I don't know. I think does the video on my phone look better than the video on the GoPro? I don't know.
And the U.S. Navy
This
decided
video
they
may
didn't
look
really want to
better.
train their people out in the middle of the ocean where anything could happen, and they could lose so many
look at
people in
this
so many
boat.
ships, especially to enemy attack.
choppy the
So they
water.
decided to do the second
Look at
greatest
that little
thing,
boat.
which is train
Yeah, it's
on the
going
Great
up and
Lakes,
down.
which is like its own mini ocean. So they converted the USS Sable and the USS Wolverine to aircraft carriers.
Choppers
Over
are right with
120,000
Whoa,
planes
shit.
took off and successfully landed. There were only 128 losses
This is
and
some
200
choppy
accidents.
shit.
Those 128 losses means there are plane wrecks in Lake Michigan. It is the highest number of plane wrecks.
If I didn't know how to
water.
swim, I'd
It
be
is super
scared.
cool. And if you want to see one of these plane wrecks actually preserved and kept safe and plucked from the depths of Lake Michigan, you can go to Midway Airport. Go to Midway Airport, go to that terminal A, B, and C, look up and you'll see one of those planes. Another awesome thing about Navy Pier is the fact that it has a Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel was invented here in Chicago in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair. This was also called the Columbian Exposition, which was in honor of the 400th year of Columbus stepping foot in America. So if you look over on the left-hand side and you see that Ferris wheel, imagine one that's 2 to 3 times bigger. This Ferris wheel was built in response to the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Someone needed to create something cooler and more exciting, so they made a giant wheel, I repeat, 2 to 3 times bigger than that one. They put train cars on it, and they made it spin. That's right, folks. Instead of those tiny pods that you see on our Ferris wheel today, they used train cars. So if you can imagine one of our train cars in the CTA holding about 40 people, and maybe a bar, that is what
I'm
was
using
spinning
my
in the air.
phone.
Now I'm going to talk about this little low building to the ground. It's behind the trees. It's probably the shortest building we're going to talk about today. That is the municipal water treatment plant. That water treatment plant receives water from those cribs. Remember when we were cleaning our Chicago River? That is one of the cribs. Over on the right-hand side, you're going to see that circus tent-looking building, almost like a KFC bucket. That is a water crib. These water cribs take water from Lake Michigan and they pump it through tunnels all the way to the water treatment plant. These tunnels are running beneath us. They are 10 to 25 feet wide. Now, you could fit several people inside of there. It is illegal to walk in there, but if you find a way, let me know. Wink. There is a legal way, however, to visit the water crib. If you visit 4 Mile Crib, they are currently trying to get tours of the crib. So if you're interested in seeing that thing all the way out there, they're taking boat tours all the way out there, and they are also restoring the crib.
Other YouTubers had this
all right,
happen
folks,
to you.
on our left-hand
Look at my
side,
battery.
approaching, we're going to see this big, tall, handsome black building with the spire on top and the X's on the outside. That is the John Hancock building.
And now it's stuck inside the camera.
Building in Chicago.
So yeah,
Now the John Hancock building is quite interesting. It's built like you and me, and like many other skyscrapers, with a skeleton on the inside. If you don't have a skeleton on the inside, come talk to me. Let's talk about what's going on. But it's also built with an exoskeleton, like a crab. So if you see those X's on the outside of the building, that is also structural support. The other interesting thing about this building is the thing at its base, the Cheesecake Factory. Just kidding, I just love the Cheesecake Factory. The thing that's interesting about this building is on the top floor, you can actually go up there and be tilted over the side of the building. Has anybody done the tilt? Yeah. Wow, y'all are brave. Y'all are brave. I'm terrified of heights. So if anybody wants to do the tilt, this is how it goes. You put your hands on the glass, you put your toes on the edge of the glass, and they tilt you 35 degrees over the side of the streets of Chicago. Crazy, crazy thing. I'm terrified of heights. You can't catch me up there. I'll be downstairs at the Cheesecake Factory. All right. right, folks, I'm going to give you guys another break real quick. Our Captain Jose is going to take us on a lovely little adventure outside this break wall. The break wall is this little thing that you see along here, this little cement block. It keeps the waves from absolutely decimating us in the city. That's why it's called a break wall. It breaks the waves. I'll talk more a little bit about that later, and I'll talk about my favorite building that's coming up. It is the oldest building on this tour. But for now, feel free to take beautiful, beautiful pictures of the city skyline. It is a lovely day here on the lake. Remember to please hold on. You will get wet on the bow, and please, 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 please be careful as you're walking around. All right, folks, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
You guys enjoying this? I think it's a chill, nice little boat ride that people can go on when they come visit Chicago.
You get very wet. The wave came over me all like, whoosh.
All right, guys, I'm gonna try to get this battery out and we're gonna go down. I'm gonna come back in a second. Vamos. Okay, guys,
do not lean over
my
the side,
battery,
and there is a
I think it has swelling inside the camera, so I can't get it out. So I switched to the phone.
It'll feel very refreshing.
Still
All
going.
right, we got a little treat coming up right here. If you look on our left-hand
Show will
side,
not
before I
stop.
talk about Navy Pier,
It
I want
must
to give
go on.
I want to give a tall shout-out to Tall Ship Wendy. Tall Ship Wendy is this.
All right, I'm gonna go to the bow and see if we can get wet. Let's see if we can see down there. Oh shit!
They didn't realize their mistake until
Crazy. Rocking back and forth.
Now a young single man in
Oh,
1972. He is
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay. Yes, the water. That's why I turned around. shit. God, I'm scared. It's gotten worse. Oh shit, yeah, it has got worse. All that, but we got jacked up down there. We got jacked up. Oh shit. Oh, it's even up here. It's even up here. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to run. Oh shit.
All right, no one
Nowhere to
the
run.
winds reaching up here. Be careful, folks.
You was down there. Oh man, I wasn't ready for it. Be careful, bro. Be careful. Oh shit.
There's a great, lovely close-up of the lighthouse on our left-hand side.
Oh man. Oh, she really got it. Yo, they really got it. They really got it. They really got it. Oh, they really got it. All right, guys, you guys enjoying this? I think we just had a good time down there on the bow. Oh, they got the music back on. Fight the copyright. Fight the copyright. They may force us to go back down and get soaked with the water because of the music. I don't know. Maybe we'll go down. Oh, look at the architecture. Yeah, the Willis Tower here, the John Hancock there. You guys go back and see some of my older videos. I just did a video of the Willis Tower right there. Just did a video of that not too long ago. So go back and check some of the older videos and you guys will be able to see that Willis Tower, I think it's 1,300 something feet up in the air. It's an experience. We stepped out on the, it's a ledge. It's actually just like a see-through floor where you just step out on and you just look down pretty much. Yeah, but you guys check it out. It's an experience. It's exhilarating. Can't say this boat is better than that camp. Almost. Bothered earlier, but now I'm cool and still. Thanks to the it's on the bow, where all the water splashing upon us. And it's so windy with little, I guess, I don't know what you call it, sprays, coming upon the boat, hitting spats here and there. Now, that actually turned this into a better video because I was wondering how the video was going to turn out. Because it started off kind of lame-ish, but okay, it ended up a little bit better. So I might put a disclaimer in the beginning of the video. Bear through the first 15 to 20 minutes because it does get exciting towards the end. All right, vamos. Dirty Bro Go. Dead or alive. Shit. She just got I need to fix my battery. I won't be able to do it on here because of the water splashing around. But I gotta get my battery, get this battery out the camera. I guess when we get back on dry land, then yeah, we'll do it. Guys, I know the GoPro is waterproof, but it's only waterproof when it's closed. Oh shit. Excuse the language. I mean, oh my God. We got water splashing way up here.
Alright, folks. How we feeling now that we're all a little bit wet? Alright, that's what I like to hear. Alrighty, we are approaching museum campus. It's going to be on our left-hand side. You're going to see this little dome chrome building. It's going to have like a circular shape to it. And outside you're going to see a tinier little circle with a cylinder cover to it. That's the Adler Planetarium. The cool thing about that tinier cylinder in front of the building is that it is... Sorry, I'm being blown away. The thing about that tinier cylinder is that it is a public telescope. It is the biggest public telescope of the size in the Midwest. And it is completely free. You just have to purchase a ticket to the museum. And if you are a Chicago resident, you can visit the museums on Chicago Free Museum Wednesdays. Wednesdays works too with the way the wind is blowing. You can also see a unique view of McCormick Place at this angle. On our left-hand side, you're gonna, straight in the face. You're gonna see the black building with these white pillars sticking out of it. That is our convention center. So if you are a nerd and you like big conventions like me, that's where C2E2 is. That is also where Star Wars Celebration was. Our museum campus is a beautiful example of one of our free parks that you can enjoy. So you don't need... Alright, the hat has been recovered. You don't need any money to be able to visit our parks. They are forever open, free, and clear, which I will talk about later. On our left-hand side, you can see another blue building right of this Adler Planetarium. It looks like a spaceship was landed in the middle of Chicago. That is Soldier Field. That is the home of where the Bears play. One time I said the Bulls, and I'll never do that again. That is where the Bears play. That is also where superstars play their shows. Think Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar, SZA. If they are coming to Chicago, they perform there. In August, My Chemical Romance will be there. So if you got tickets somehow, let me know. I want them. All right, folks, we're passing by Grant Park. This is that green space that you see right down there. Grant Park is where Lollapalooza is. Is anybody going to Lollapalooza? All right, okay. Grant Park is an amazing place. Next to that is Buckingham Fountain. It shoots water in the air about 15 feet. Can go higher than that some days. It's kind of hidden behind that white pavilion towards the low ground there. And then to the right of that, you'll see this green space, and sticking out of it, you've got these weird little, looks like scrapes of silver. That is Millennium Park. So that's where the Bean is. That is a huge amphitheater that you see. It's a really cool place. All right, now if I want to turn your attention to this black building right here with the little shoulders, and it has the two white spires on the top, that is our tallest building in Chicago. That is the Sears Tower, sometimes spelled W-I-L-L-I-S. Do not let perspective trick you. This building is huge. It is very, very tall. And it also has a platinum LEED stamp. How does a building that big get a platinum LEED stamp of approval? It changed all of its AC. It changed the way the elevators work. It changed all of their cleaning supplies. And they have a rooftop garden. Now, on the lowest level of this building, you can see a little rooftop garden. If you're up close to it, it's really cool. It has solar power. It also has those little windmills. You know those little creepy things you see in the Midwest with like aliens taking over the planes? They got those. Another cool thing about Sears is you can also go to the tippy top of that building and suspend yourself over the side of Chicago. So if you're a thrill seeker and you also did the tilt, I encourage you to go check out that lovely experience at Sears Tower. The way that this building is created is using a bundled tube method, which is, if you can for a moment, imagine a pencil. You can snap that in half pretty easily. If you imagine several pencils bundled together, you can't really snap that. So that is how that building is constructed. It helps it not sway or break or collapse completely in this Chicago wind. The next building I want to bring your attention to is the Aon Center. It's going to blend in a little bit with the environment, but if you look at the pyramid building and you look to the right of that, there's going to be a big, tall column building. It's a rectangle. That is the Aon Center. That is the 4th tallest building in Chicago.
And also,
Aon Center is very interesting because of the way it's built. It was originally made with marble, the same marble that Michelangelo made. David, so it's beautiful. It sparkled in the sun. It was glorious. However, marble is meant to be in a temperate environment, and as all of you have experienced today, Chicago is not a temperate environment. So it began to crack, it began to fall apart, so much so that a piece fell off of it and punctured the building roof next to it. So they had to replace it. They took all of that marble off the building, and I wish I had a happy ending for that marble, but unfortunately it was shipped off to Gary, Indiana, and used for gravel and driveways. So they replaced that marble with granite, and while there was no happy ending for the marble, it is a great message to never take your marble for granted. Alright folks, I'm going to briefly talk about this blue curvy building right here. It has a tiny column and then a bigger column up top, and it looks like there's floors missing. That is the St. Regis Hotel, the tallest building in the world, built by a woman. We will talk about her later, and we'll give her a good hefty round of applause in a moment. But those floors are intentionally missing. That is called a blow-through floor. That is what helps the wind go through and around the building so it doesn't sway. Another thing that helps our buildings in Chicago not sway are called internal dampeners. So they are Olympic-sized swimming pools of water that are temperature controlled and in a little box. So when the building goes one way, the water goes another. And it helps people on their up floor, those really expensive condos, not get seasick when they're trying to have their breakfast. Don't forget to sip your water. Alright folks, I'm going to give you another little Chicago history lesson. Does anybody know about the Chicago Fire of 1871? Alright. Has everybody learned about Mrs. O'Leary? What if I told you that wasn't true? So the story is that Mrs. O'Leary had a barn, and on that barn there was a cow named Daisy, and that cow kicked over lantern and started the Chicago fire. This isn't true. So, it was a sensationalized piece at the time, so nobody actually knows how the Chicago fire was started. Maybe it was a cigarette, maybe it was arson, who knows? It was not Mrs. O'Leary. It was a sensationalized piece at the time, and while Chicago loves to light their river up green and celebrate St. Patrick's Day, back then they did not really care much for Irish immigrants. So Mrs. O'Leary and her poor cow Daisy became the scapegoat, or scape cow. They were not exonerated until 1991. So what was the Chicago fire of 1871? It was a devastating fire. If you think about how tall these flames are, I can give you a visual representation. If you look on our left-hand side and you see that little cement block that's set into that one building, that is how tall the flames of the Chicago fire reached. There were things called fire devils. Those are fire tornadoes whipping through the streets of Chicago. Chicago was made entirely out of wood. Our buildings were wood, our bridges were wood, our roads were wood. You can actually go and visit the last remaining wooden street in Chicago. It is on the corners of Astor and State Street. It is in Gold Coast. I encourage you to check it out if you have a chance. It is really cool. But everything was made out of wood. It was not great. And you're thinking, but there was a river, so the water stopped it, right? Remember the chocolate pudding? The water did not stop it. It jumped the river twice, and it consumed and crawled across the wooden bridges, so it could absolutely tear apart the rest of Chicago. For perspective of how large this fire was, we've seen the height. If you think about how tall Sears, or how far Sears Tower was, if you go all the way past Sears, you go from Sears Tower all the way past the Ferris wheel and then farther. That is how far the Chicago fire burned. It burned for 2.5 days. It consumed 1/3 of the city. 1/3 of people were left homeless, and only 300 people lost their lives. Only 300 people lost their lives because so many people fled to Lake Michigan, where we are now, in hopes that the fire would not get them. And it kind of worked, thank goodness. The Chicago fire was burned so hot and so fast that people did not have time to take their belongings, so they desperately tried to bury them in the dirt. However, that still wasn't enough. If you visit the Chicago History Museum, you can see their scorched porcelain and knives and cookingware that was made out of gold and silver, melted and scorched. It was not enough. One of the greatest examples of how hot this fire burned is outside for free, outside of the Chicago History Museum. You're going to see a little rock, or what looks like a rock. It's about that big, and it's about shorter than this chair, so it's really not that big, but it's all that's left of a 3-story metalworking building. This building was burnt entirely to the ground, and when they were going through the ashes, they tried to figure out what this weird rock was, and it didn't quite sit right with them, and the reason is because they can see little tiny forks and washers and nails melded into what they thought was a rock. However, it was all that was left of this building. That is how hot the Chicago fire burned. It burned stone. I don't know what temperature you need to burn stone, but it burned stone. This fire was hot, and it was deadly, and it razed our city to the ground. However, we rose again. Chicago has the nickname of Second City. Now, it is not because it is second to anything. Chicago is the best city in the world. It is because we had a second chance to rebuild. So like a phoenix, we rose from the ashes. We rebuilt our city, and now you get to look upon the beautiful second city of Chicago, including our lovely Navy Pier, which our Captain Jose is taking us very, very close to. As I mentioned before, this is a great place to go if you're looking for food. There's the Dippin' Dots there. I love Dippin' Dots, and I feel like I can rarely find them, so if you're obsessed with Dippin' Dots like me, they're in Navy Pier. Run, don't walk. There's also a hotel that you can stay at. You can see these nice rooms here. Inside this little glass pavilion here is where a lot of the restaurants are. Margaritaville is going to be back over there. And we are also approaching Tall Ship Windy. I mentioned Tall Ship Windy earlier, the Underground Railroad. Lake Michigan was actually a huge part in the Underground Railroad. If you think about it, the only place for Black Americans or Black people to be free was Canada. So they went through the Great Lakes, including Lake Michigan. So the ships that you see here, the Tall Ship Windy on our right-hand side, is a recreation of one of the ships that many sailors used to sail upon Lake Michigan. Black sailors made up a huge, huge, huge portion of sailors in Lake Michigan because they would be able to sneak onto these ships and sail safely to Canada while getting paid for it. Everybody give a little Tall Ship Windy wave. All right. right, who has had deep dish? Has anybody had deep dish? I know a few of you talked to me about it. All right. So, what's that? Yes, that should be. So, how many of you had Giordano's? How many of you had Illuminatis? All right. Do y'all know about the cultural war of Illuminatis versus Giordano's? Yes. Some people are saying yes. Chicagoans love Illuminatis. So, if you want to be on the right side of Chicago history, go get Illuminatis. I also recommend Pequod's. It is named after the ship from Moby Dick. That is correct. You heard me. Pequod's is a lovely local location. Lots of people have eaten there. I enjoy it very much. I think it's... See, there you go. We got some locals saying they were there last night, so it speaks for itself. All right, folks, we're getting an awesome view of the Ferris wheel. I talked about the Ferris wheel earlier. I want to talk about other things that were invented at this World's Fair. So the World's Fair was here in Chicago in 1893 as a little reminder. It was called the White City. It was called the White City because it was made out of something called staff, which was this weird little wood mixed with some sort of cement, so that it created this almost sparkly, glittery effect. And what helped that even more was the fact that the White City was the first city to be lit up with electricity. In the 1800s, people thought that electricity was witchcraft. So when it was first introduced, people were like, witch! And they didn't want that. They didn't want that at all. They didn't like that. Yeah, you get it. They didn't like that electricity. So the White City was the first time in which an entire city was allowed to be lit up with electricity, and it was publicly accepted. People's minds were blown. The city sparkled. It was glorious. It was also built by Daniel Burnham. Daniel Burnham was a genius at the time. He was one of the architects who worked in this White City. There are only two remaining structures from this White City: our Art Institute of Chicago and the Museum of Science and Industry, all the way on the south side. Those are our two remaining structures from the White City itself. The reason is because I said it was made out of staff, and before they could make these buildings permanent and make sure that they stayed and survived the test of time, unfortunately, it burned down. Another fire. People did not learn their lessons. These buildings burned to the ground, and it was not found. What happened to the Ferris wheel, though? So this is a great piece of St. Louis lore. If anybody's from St. Louis, they will tell you different stories about where the Ferris wheel ended up. That's right, folks. We donated our massive 2 to 3 times bigger than this Ferris wheel to St. Louis. They lost it. They don't know where it is. They cannot find the Ferris wheel. I don't know how you lose a thing that's 2 or 3 times bigger than that thing. I do not know. They cannot find the Ferris wheel. So if you guys want to go on a little quest of a lifetime, find that Ferris wheel, come back, and let me know where it is. Other things that were invented at this World's Fair was the predecessor to the zipper. The moving walkway was invented. It had 2 different functions, one in which you could walk along it and one that you could just stand on it. Now we all know that moving walkways work both that way, so we can both walk and stand on it. Also, Juicy Fruit made its debut, so if you remember Wrigley Gum, that is where Juicy Fruit was debuted. That is his gum. Wild Bill also had his show outside of the World's Fair. Many people think it was inside. That is not correct. Wild Bill and the World's Fair actually had a little bit of an argument. Wild Bill at the time was a little cowboy who was running around doing pretty crazy things at the time, and he wanted to put on his show. And the World's Fair said, "No, we don't want you in. You can't be doing that stuff here." And Wild Bill actually said, "Well, you know what? That's fine. The taxes in here are too high. I will do it myself." And so he moved outside of the World's Fair and he did it himself, and he made more money than some of the vendors inside the World's Fair. The World's Fair also had people from all over the country representing the United States. One of those states was California, and they had cedar seeds that they were handing out to people. However, that then became a huge environmental problem because people then fled Chicago and began to plant those cedar seeds, and now you can see them all around the United States in non-native locations, including Virginia, where they thrive because of the environment there. All right, folks, we're about to head back into the Chicago Harbor Lock. I want to give you another chance to take pictures of this beautiful Chicago skyline and the beautiful neighborhood here and the lake out there. Feel free to take pictures. If you have any questions, I am here. Don't forget to drink your water, stay hydrated, and enjoy. I will be back in just a moment.
stuff. I have refreshments in here. To the bar.
Ever been to roller coaster park that's in Ohio? Wyatt keeps talking about wanting to go there, but then feeling like he can't even manage Six Flags. So I was like, why would we do that? I didn't see him quick. Yeah, Cedar Flake. Oh, maybe because it comes
Gotta fight the copyright. Get away from the music. Let me get away from the music.
He does, like his age, like being able to handle like bullshit like that, like he's never always the
I feel handicapped using the phone. And I don't even have a holder for the phone. I actually have to hold it on the corners with my hand. And I got a call coming through that I will not answer because I'm using my phone. You know what? I should ask for some help. Well, I'm trying to get the battery out of my bad, guys. I'm trying to get the battery out of missing footage. Copyright. think this may be the end of it, so I'll be able to get on dry land and get this battery out and switch back to the camera. I'll put it back to the end. It's probably gonna sound like I'm talking really fast because I'm gonna have to change the speed on the sound because of the music that's being played, because I don't want to get a copyright written strike. So yeah, it's gonna sound like a chipmunk probably. I actually don't know how much of this is good footage. I don't know. We'll see when I get back to the lab and chop it up. Hey, leave in the comments, do any other travel vloggers have this same problem with GoPros when it gets too hot, that the tab that you pull on breaks off because the battery, I think it swells inside the camera with the heat or something like that? Something going on, I don't know what the hell happened. Let's see if I can see the locks.
Rubber dodgeball to the face for a shadow. Easy on it.
No, you can't see it. No, you can't see it. Okay, I think I got the battery out, guys. Alright, let me cut this out. We'll be back in a second. I almost got this battery out, guys. Okay, guys, I got the battery out the camera. And yeah, now we're back on the move. Ramos.
All right, folks, welcome back. We're gonna go back onto the river and then we're gonna dock pretty soon. I want to talk about a few more things before we do that. I mentioned the city ordinance that mentioned forever open and clear. That is an ordinance that means you cannot build along our lake front. If you build along the lake front, it has to be important. It has to be for a reason. So you may be asking yourself, why is that tower on our right-hand side there? That big old black one. That got through via a loophole. So they built a parking garage at the base of it. Said it was, helpful for Navy Pier and other things to do around the area. And they just said, ignore the skyscraper on top of it. So this is Lake Point Tower. It is in the same shape as our Y shape that I mentioned earlier, the confluence. It originally was going to be a 4-point tower, but when they started to design it as 4 points, they realized you would just be able to see into your neighbor's apartment. So they made it 3, and actually made it more dynamic so that the wind can go around a lot easier than if it was 4. And the Lake Point Tower was born. I want to talk about our bridges a little bit. So the bridge in front of us is Lakeshore Drive. If anybody has been on Lakeshore Drive, you notice one of the most beautiful drives that you can take in Chicago. So if you get the chance to take a drive on Lakeshore, I absolutely encourage it. It goes all the way from the south side all the way to the north side. It also takes you to the Museum of Science and Industry that I mentioned earlier, one of the last remaining buildings from our World's Fair. But Lakeshore Drive is incredible, but what's cooler is our bridges. We have 37 movable bridges, the most in the world, second only to Amsterdam. These bridges are called Trunnion-Baskel bridges. Baskel means seesaw. That means they open in the middle. They open just like this to let larger vessels through, such as sailboats and anything with a higher roof than us. How it works is on either side you'll see these bridge houses on our left and our right. Inside are these giant cement blocks. Those cement blocks are calibrated so specifically to the bridge that if you were to paint the bridge, you would have to recalibrate the rock inside. So when we open it, it's a tiny little engine that goes, and then gravity just does the rest, and the rock will slide down and the bridge will go up. You can actually see the function of this bridge in action in the Bridge House Museum. The Bridge House Museum is located on Michigan Avenue, on the Michigan Avenue Bridge House. When you get off of our dock, you just walk right, you go under the bridge, and they're going to be there. You can see them open the bridge from inside. You can see how these gears work, and it's actually pretty cool. Each bridge house is very unique. They all match the different architecture styles that were popular at the time. If you go on our North Branch and you go pretty far out, you'll see some wooden ones. Those are my favorite. They're a little pastel. And in the Bridge House, in the Bridge House Museum, you can see pictures of them. So the Trunnion-Baskel bridges didn't always used to be like this. Originally, they were the old-fashioned medieval drawbridges that you see them kind of like pull the chains and they come up like that. But that wasn't really working. They were becoming old. They needed a new way. So they did swing bridges, which swing like this, which is very interesting. And that became a traffic problem, obviously. So if you swing this way, no one can come this way. So they invented the Trunnion-Baskel bridges, which is what Chicago has now. Alright, I mentioned the female architect before. I want to talk about the largest building in the world, the tallest building in the world, built by a woman. Her name is Jeannie Gang, and she built this beauty right here, this curvy lady on the left-hand side with the blue glass. That is the St. Regis Hotel. Now, I said it was curvy. That is a lie. There's not a single curve in this building. It is an optical illusion. It is an optical illusion created by using 5 feet. So every other floor, or if you can see like kind of how it's set right now. 5 feet in, 5 feet out, 5 feet in, 5 feet out. And if you look at the middle tower here, it actually has the design of what those 5 feet looks like. That little square. It's like upside down popcorn boxes, the old-fashioned ones. So you put one upside down, you put one right side up, upside down, right side up, and that's how the St. Regis was built. There's actually the middle tower that you see there is not touching the ground. You can actually walk through that and go into our lovely Millennium Park. Now there's another building that Jeannie Gang made. It was her first tallest building before she beat her own record. It is right behind this triangle building here. You're going to see these wavy white balconies and the blue windows as well. This is called Aqua. Now Jeannie Gang was a Midwest girly like me, and she wanted to pay homage to the Midwest Great Lakes. So the balconies are actually limestone, a reference to the limestone cliffs along the Great Lakes, and the blue glass of both St. Regis and Aqua are a love letter to the rivers and lakes. Now I want to discuss also this roadway that we see here on our left-hand side. It's a 3-tiered roadway. The top part is called Upper Wacker, so that is the only road in Chicago that goes all 4 directions. The level below it is called Lower Wacker. It's where your GPS goes to die. And then we have Lower Wacker. If you're driving on Lower Wacker, your GPS and no one can help you. I'm so sorry. It is actually called Lower Wacker. I did not make that up. Lower Wacker is where like the trucks and... Alright, someone survived Lower Wacker, I've heard. That's pretty impressive. They drove on their way here. That's scary. Lower Wacker is where we have all of our garbage trucks, and we keep our trash so that people aren't, dealing with that, and they can do their work faster, so we don't have to interrupt each other's traffic. That is also where they filmed The Dark Knight, if anybody is a fan of the Batman movies, the Christopher Nolan movies. When Batman chases the Joker, it is right under here in Lower Wacker. And actually about the Batman movies, if you've seen the newer Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, Gotham is Chicago. So if you guys are watching any Batman movies that were made by Christopher Nolan, or the new Robert Pattinson Batman, check out the rivers, check out the bridges, it's all the same. So now you can say you've been to Gotham. All right, folks, we are officially pulling back up to our dock. I ask that you please stay in your seat or take a seat if you have not already sat. Docking a boat is much like landing a plane. You're not going to get anywhere until there's a way for you to leave, so I promise there's no rush to go anywhere. It's all going to be okay. And go ahead and give us a good old round of applause for our captain and our crew. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you guys for joining us on this cruise today. If you enjoyed it, you can leave us a review. My name is Carissa. If you didn't enjoy it, my name is Carly. Thank you guys for joining us so much. Please stay cool. Remember to drink your water today. I leave you with one more thing. Always stay whimsical, stay curious, and remember to keep adventuring. Thanks, folks. Oh, stay seated just a little bit. Stay seated. We're almost there. The captain will tell you when it's safe. I promise. It'll be okay. All right. And yes. And I will be on the dock if you guys have any more further questions.
Okay, Dirties, I hope you guys enjoyed this video.
All right, folks, we'll secure the wall. To wrap this up, you guys are free to go. Don't forget to take with you what you bought on board. Back for a small eviction up to fill out your pockets. Perhaps a cell phone. Watch out.
I'm gonna end this video somewhere around here. Where we going next? We don't know. We just go. Have a dirty day. Vamos.